Let me just give a status report. As you all know, of course, we have the boil water notice, which remains in effect at this particular time. We have completed all the samples. We pulled 29 samples this morning before 10 o'clock. In fact, we pulled two sets of samples before 10 o'clock, and they're in the incubation period, which means we'll evaluate them to see whether or not there's any sort of growth, any sort of contamination. And so the scientists, of course, had looked at them at about 12 o'clock, and they saw no signs of contamination. They looked at them again recently at about 4:30. They continue to see no signs of contamination. All of this information is being provided to the state. But generally speaking, these samples lay out for about 18 hours or more. And so technically speaking, we wouldn't get, for example, things remain as they are right now, be all clear until about 3 a.m. in the morning. We remain hopeful that the state may give a signal prior to that time, but we simply don't know, because generally the incubation period lasts for about 18 hours. But I would say we've done everything on our part, so it's pretty much a wait and see. And I think Director Haddock can back me up. Generally, though, when you don't see any growth or contamination in the first, let's say, 4 to 6 hours, it's highly unlikely that you'll see any later on. So, you know, we've had the different companies. Our people, Sabre Electrician, Centerpoint, NRG have been at the East Water Purification Plant all day doing an assessment. We will continue to do a diagnostic assessment. We do know that the two transformers malfunctioned. One was a backup to the other. It was just one of those unique sort of circumstances in which you had the transformer that malfunctioned, and then you had the backup transformer that malfunctioned. I know some people have said on social media, what about the generators? Well, we did have generators. But when the transformers failed to operate, it prevented the generators from being connected in order to provide the additional power. Plus, there was still power in the grid. So it was the transformers in between the grid and the generators that prevented the power. So the power was down for 2 hours from 10:30 until 12:30. Electricians responded very quickly. They were there on site in about 30 minutes, and so power was restored. The time period in which the power was below 20 psi was very limited, and for 14 of the sensors, the power dropped below 20 psi for less than 2 minutes. For less than 2 minutes. And then for 2 of the sensors, the pressure dropped below 20 psi for 30 minutes. And then the power was quickly restored and was above 35 psi's somewhere around 3 o'clock, and the pressure remained strong for the rest of the day. So, but, you know, out of an abundance of caution, and I do want to underscore that, out of an abundance of caution, in collaboration with the TCEQ, the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, the boil water notice was issued. I do certainly want to acknowledge and thank TCEQ and the Texas Department of Emergency Management for working with the city. We certainly appreciate that. They've been very, very helpful in this sense. But it's our desire, of course, to get the all clear, you know, as soon as possible, so that schools, for example, can make a decision as it relates to tomorrow. Elective surgeries can be scheduled. Businesses can reopen if they did have to close down, and people can resume their normal everyday activities on tomorrow. So we're just in a wait and see. But at this point in time, the city has done everything that it can do, and then we'll just have to wait out this period until the state tells us otherwise. Okay.
Could you hear before 3 a.m. or no?
It is possible. It is possible. The state has been very cooperative. They are aware that we have been looking, that the scientists have been looking at the samples every 3 to 4 hours. The samples have been in our possession since 9:45 a.m. this morning, and they are aware that they have found no signs of contamination or growth. So we'll continue to advise them, every 3 to 4 hours, and then a lot simply will depend on their comfort level. Again, the boil notice order was issued out of an abundance of caution, so everyone just wants to be doubly safe, assured that everything is fine. And so every 3 to 4 hours, Public Works will reach out to them. I know I've reached out to them and provided them with our reports. So we shall see.
Mayor, can you talk about how unlikely it is, you touched on it in your remarks, that you'll find contamination if they haven't found any at the noon hour at 4:30?
Generally speaking, and again, Director Haddock can back me up and add to it, if you don't find contamination, for example, in the first, let's say, 4 to 5 hours, it is unlikely that it's going to appear. If there are any signs, it's going to show up in those first, let's say, 4 to 5 hours, if not before. That's been the experience, and that's what the scientists are saying to us. And so at this point, they don't expect to find anything. But again, you got the 18-hour waiting period there for a reason, and we respect that. But we are providing and will be providing periodic reports to the state so that they will know that everything is fine. And that's why, out of an abundance of caution, we pulled the initial 29 sets of water samples, and then we pulled an additional 29 sets just to have 2 sets, just in case something happened with the first. We had another set that was ready to go. But on the first set, we're not finding anything at this point.
How will you let everybody know once you get the all clear from the state?
Well, one of the reasons why, for example, that I'm here joining with Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee is that I knew y'all would be here. And so, we had the press. Yeah. So we had the press conference earlier today, and then it just so happens the Congresswoman had planned to be with be busy and to do the shots and the water distribution. And we wanted to join. Public Works brought some additional water out here to join the effort. And this was an opportunity to give an update report, so that the general public would know exactly where things are, and to give some indication of what we think the end result will be. And we'll try to provide an additional update before let's say the 9 and 10 o'clock news as well.
Are you satisfied with what the state has processed, with what the state's done?
The state has been very helpful. I have no criticism of the state. TCUQ, their people stayed at their offices last night, and they approved the plan that Public Works submitted last night about 10:30 p.m. or a little bit later. And the plan was approved last night. That allowed us to get started early this morning in collecting the samples. So I have nothing but thanks for TCEQ and for the Texas Department of Emergency Management for assisting the city.
What's the biggest takeaway here? What do you want everybody out there to know about this?
Well, what I want people to understand, just like things will break down in your home, okay? The city is a collection of everybody's home. Things will happen. We have transformers in place, and we had one as a backup to the other. It just so happens in a unique situation, both malfunction. Things happen. And then, of course, we have backup generators. But what we are doing is that we are doing a complete diagnostic assessment based on what happened to see how can we mitigate it from happening again. Okay, how do we operate around that system such that if your transformers fail, how do we keep the system running? And the main reason is because the East Water purification plant is the main plant that provides water to most of the city of Houston, with the exception of Kingwood and people who live in Clear Lake who receive their billing from the Clear Lake Water Authority. So we'll do a complete diagnostic assessment because it is quite disruptive to schools, to businesses, to hospitals, when your system does go down, and you have to give a boil water notice, even if you feel as though the water is safe. Okay, but out of an abundance of caution, and we talked with the TCEQ starting yesterday at about 2:43, going up to about 6:40 p.m. In the end, the decision was made out of an abundance of caution to issue the boil water notice, and so we did. And now we'll go back and we'll do a very thorough, detailed assessment. I've ordered my team to talk to all of the necessary experts in this area, and to come up with a solution to mitigate this from happening again. But I simply want people to understand, nobody wanted the transformers to fail. Okay? Nobody wanted the transformers to fail. Nobody wanted the situation where you're coming off of the holidays and then you're confronted with this situation. Nobody wanted that to happen. But when I got the call on yesterday, and I was told about the situation, the power being disrupted, you simply have to now manage a situation that you didn't foresee. And we got busy, and I do want to give a shout out to Public Works and the team and those who stayed throughout the night to work very hard, and to all of those who collaborated and who have collaborated with us. We'll get through it. It has been a major inconvenience, and as the mayor of the city of Houston, I certainly want to apologize for people who, let's say, was set to get elective surgeries and had to be postponed. Kids that were scheduled to go to school, and parents had to make changes. Businesses that were ready to open again, knowing that people were feasting off the Thanksgiving turkey, now businesses wanted them in their restaurants, and they may not have been able to service. So certainly want to apologize for the inconvenience. But what I will say to people, and what I have learned since being mayor for 7 years, stuff happens. Whether I like it or don't like it, stuff does happen. And when those things happen, you simply have to manage them. And you all hands on deck, okay? And you don't make excuses. You try to be transparent, be upfront with people, but stuff does happen. And these transformers, who would have thought, after we've been talking about resilience, and putting in another transformer to back up this one, because this was the main water source. And in fact, in a review that we had not too long ago, that was performed, I think by Centerpoint, if I'm not mistaken, they said that the system for the East Water Purification Plant was hardened. That was their assessment, that there was not much more we needed to do to back up this system, that we had the transformer backing up the transformer, we had generators in place, that the system was hardened. But apparently it was not hardened enough. So we'll go back to the... Yeah, I know HISD has closed their schools for tomorrow. Yeah, I'm sorry, Congresswoman Chief Jackson.
Let me, early this morning, I spoke to some of our national leadership. This has been monitored by Washington, and their assessment was that the mayor and the state handled this very collaboratively, very cooperatively. They asked me specifically how the state was working with the city, and I can only go on what Mayor Turner has said, that they were cooperating. So this has been watched at the highest level. I think it's important to note, since we have the responsibility nationally, this is not Jackson, Mississippi. This is not a collapse of the water system. This is a unique, and I don't want to speak for the Public Works expertise, but this is a unique, unfortunately, widespread impact, but unique incident that happened. And the mayor will have at his access, as he desires, help from the EPA and help on the infrastructure aspect. But the way it was responded to quickly, the way he has indicated, TCEQ, Washington officials have taken note because of the experience they had in Jackson, Mississippi, and they are impressed with how we have worked on this. Again, I join the mayor in the inconveniences that people have had, and maybe even someone would say it's not inconvenience, it's more than that. We understand that. One of the reasons why in the midst of the vaccines dealing with the flu that we found a way with the National Association of Christian Churches to have water. Public Works has bought water, and so I think water is accessible to everyone. The final point I want to make is that we can't, it is difficult to analyze every aspect of infrastructure, which is why I'm one of the supporters that says America's whole infrastructure needs overhauling, because you just can't find every nuance that comes into being. But I am hoping that TCEQ, with what the mayor has reported, that's just my hope, will move quickly and be able to respond as quickly as possible with the information that they have. But I have been impressed by what I have seen, and I can assure you that Washington is likewise impressed, but was ready and standing by to take any calls that were necessary. But Mayor, I'm just hoping that as you work with TCEQ, that as you've indicated, that they can move forward quickly and that there can be an answer coming forward this evening. Any other help that you need, the federal government is ready to do so.
Thanks. Carol, you saying you want to add? Director Haddock on Public Works.
Push it back up a little
Sorry
bit
about
higher.
that.
Yeah, that's okay. It's probably higher than I need it. Well, good evening, everybody, and I reiterate that we do apologize because it is this is a major disruption to the city of Houston to have the water system go through a boil water notice. The team has been working very hard, working through the issues to understand exactly what the failure was and make sure that we have every step in place to make sure it doesn't happen again. One of the questions earlier was how are we going to know when it's lifted? And so the similar ways to how we send out the initial notice we have an actual list that goes out to the media, a list that goes to the different elected offices. But the other thing that was added, this particular one, was Alert Houston, and I would encourage everybody, you have the opportunity to self-enroll in Alert Houston, and you can control you getting messages from the city of Houston, messages of this importance and magnitude. And so it is important that you take advantage of those opportunities. I encourage all of you to go to the website, city's website, and sign up for Alert Houston. We will be sending out notices through all of those channels to all the media stations. As soon as we have the all clear, we will have the final results. We'll send them to the state. They will confirm, and then we'll be able to issue the recension. And at that point, we'll be able to move forward. But if you want to get the notice yourself first, be on Alert Houston, and it will come directly to you.
And then lastly, let me just say this, because I do want to remind people, since as mayor, we've gone through several major disasters. I want to remind people that this is the same Houston Public Works Department that during Hurricane Harvey, if you can remember, the Northeast Water Purification Plant was totally submerged underwater. It was this Public Works Department that kept that system going, okay, such that even during Hurricane Harvey, we didn't lose water and no boil water notice had to be issued. That was the City of Houston Public Works Department, and they were recognized nationally for that. This is the same Houston Public Works Department when we had the major break in a 96-inch pipeline, if you can remember, and power was down for hours. The pressure was down for hours. And we had a boil water notice was issued, and then we responded to that. And then, of course, it was Winter Storm Uri, where we lost power and pressure for several days, and we had a boil water notice, and we had to respond to this. In this particular case, with the two transformers having malfunctioned, the pressure was down for 14 sensors for less than 2 minutes, and then for two of the sensors for less than 30 minutes. But, be that as it may, out of an abundance of caution, collaboratively, everyone agreed that we should issue the boil water notice. So I do want to thank the Houston Public Works Department because they faced many major challenges. But let me tell you, they are good at what they do, and they respond very timely. But as I indicated to them, we'll do a diagnostic assessment. But I do understand, as much as I may fuss at them, I do understand that stuff does happen. But to the general public, to people in the city, I do want you to know that we will do everything we can to make sure that things move forward, that this boil water notice is lifted, and then we continue to move forward in a very constructive fashion. Having said that, any other questions? from anyone?
Water is still being given out here as needed, and I know you have enough water throughout the city to give to those who may need
Yeah,
it.
if anybody needs water, organizations need water, senior centers need water, people with disabilities, if you're in need of water, if you will call 311, let us know. We will do our best to get water to you, okay? But it's my hope that at least at the latest 3 a.m. tomorrow morning, if not before, that the boil water notice will be there.
The water is moving out right now at the site.
Is the water safe to consume from the water mill dispensaries where you go with your gallon and you fill up?
Can I say that one more time?
Is the water safe to consume from the water mill express, those places where you go with your 5-gallon jug and you fill up?
I don't know the answer to that. We're going to have to get that answer.
I don't know the answer. You
don't know the source.
You stumped me on that one. I don't know the answer on that one, but I will find out. Okay. All right. Thank you all. Let me thank the media and everybody else for coming and providing the information to the general public. Appreciate it. Go Cougs, #1 in the United States. I couldn't pass that up. So go Cougs.
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
great.
All right.
That's great.
Thank you all.
Congratulations.
Thanks, Congresswoman.
Yeah.